If I had the choice, if I could pick between a football game going ahead that day and allowing just this one man to go and be a part of this dawn service, I would let that one man go and be a part of that dawn service. Like, that should be our priority as a society. Those are the things that we should value.
And heavy restrictions compared to huge footy crowds so infuriated veterans across the generations. World War II.
It's a bit of a muck-up today.
Vietnam.
Today's events disgust me.
Peacekeepers.
I think the government in Victoria is doing everything it can to get rid of Anzac Day.
Descendants.
I think it's been a fiasco.
Hi everyone, Rukshan here and welcome to another episode of Real Time with Rukshan. On today's episode, I will be discussing the absolute shit show of a debacle that was the Anzac Day dawn service and march in Victoria. And by now many of you would have already seen the images and the videos circulating online of the veterans and family members of veterans and other members of the public who are behind a chain link fence of some sort, who can't attend the dawn service because they're being blocked off by this fence that's been erected by, I guess, the government, the Andrews Labor government. And it's just disturbing and distressing images seeing that happening in our state and happening in Australia. It shouldn't be happening anywhere in the world, but the fact that it's happening here is just disturbing as hell. And one of the main reasons that there's a lot of outrage about this is because the contrasting image is that a few hours later you have almost 80,000 people at the MCG shoulder to shoulder watching a football game. And yes, the game was the Anzac Day football match, and it does have a lot of pomp at the start to remember and to focus in on the sacrifices of the Anzacs and all this kind of stuff. So it is tied into Anzac Day, the football game. But the fact is, the actual main event of the day is that dawn service and is that march. And to think that we are denying veterans the ability to participate in that because of some nonsensical number that these authorities have come up with is just disgraceful. And the imagery and the symbolism of everything that happened yesterday was just completely outrageous and disgusting. And we should not ever forget that this actually happened in Victoria in 2021. That this is the kind of state that we live in now, where we fence off people and fence off veterans on such a day. In an outdoor open setting in Melbourne, in Victoria, where you have thousands of people walking around the streets, at train stations, on public transport and all this kind of nonsense, you couldn't allow this man who would probably, this particular man that I'm talking about from this image, who has walked through the street to get there, past maybe some of the same people who are now inside the fenced off area being a part of the dawn service. You can't let this bloke in. And it's just ridiculous that this is the kind of state that we live in. And this is kind of, our government is responsible for this. At the end of the day, the government and the RSL and the tone that they set, the way that they approach these things is the reason that things play out in this manner. If I had the choice, if I could pick between a football game going ahead that day and allowing just this one man to go and be a part of this dawn service, I would let that one man go and be a part of that dawn service. Like, that should be our priority as a society. Those are the things that we should value. And as much as I love sport and the footy and, I watch these things and I enjoy it as well, at the end of the day, Anzac Day, the dawn service, all these things that are happening on that day are far more important than a game of football. There's so many ways that you could dress it up and say, but the football brings people together and it commemorates this and that. I'm telling you that dawn service and the things that are happening in that moment for these people are far more important than that football game could ever be, when you come down to the crux of what is actually being represented on that day.
I've caught up with so many friends, so many veterans, so many people I love.
Sometimes you want to forget memory, but I never forget this. Never forget this.
It means that much to you.
Yes, it does.
You know, for me, when I think about Anzac Day, you know, I think back to maybe 2 years ago. I was fortunate enough to attend the centenary of the armistice at the shrine. And that day, you know, it was a very profound experience for me, especially when we all started singing the national anthem. You know, it really made me feel like, you know, a part of the community. Really made me feel like how privileged I am and how lucky I am that those before me had given up so much and sacrificed so much for me as the son of an immigrant to enjoy this country and to have the benefits and the freedoms and the luxuries and the abilities that I have in this country, in Australia today, because of the sacrifices of all those thousands of men and women who have given the ultimate sacrifice to give us this way of life. So, you know, that's kind of the emotional attachment that I had that day. And I don't have any history of a military background in Australia. But, you know, just as a general member of the public, it showed me that how important this moment could be. And, you know, to think of veterans, to think of military personnel having this one day where they gather, meet up with old friends and, you know, really, you know, commemorate their service, but also the service of their mates. I think it's a really special day for them. So to think that we are building fences around the one public place which allows people to gather like that in the city, the main place, the place that was commemorated for this very exact purpose, that was going to be there to allow people to go there and do this. To think that we've, you know, now the government has built fences around it. For what bloody reason have they put a fence around it? I mean, if they didn't put the fence, if there was no fence around this building to begin with, then none of this imagery, none of these things would have ever been really an issue. People would have gone there, paid their respects and moved on. So this tells me that a lot of this is actually about control. A lot of this is a part of this kind of woke agenda as well, because you have these government bureaucrats, you have these government officials, and you have people within the government itself who don't really care about these kind of traditional things anymore. They don't care about Anzac Day. They don't care about what it represents. For them, it's just something that they can fence off and control because, you know, that symbolism, you know, thousands of people coming or, you know, the wrong crowd coming to the Anzac Day march and, you know, sharing some other thing that they don't like or something, whatever it is, those things terrify these woke people in government. They would rather cram 80,000 people into a stadium than allow, you know, a few thousand people who are patriotic and love their country to gather at the shrine to pay their respects, because that symbolism, I think, is a problem for them. Now, you might be thinking, oh, Rukshan's really going off the rails here and he's exaggerating all these things, but I'm telling you, I am super surprised that we have not gone to the path where Anzac Day has, you know, is like a racist thing. Or Anzac Day is like a symbol of white supremacy or whatever it is. Because I'm telling you, the way things are going, that is coming our way. Now, it might not be in the next 5 years, it might not be in the next 10 years, but eventually these woke people will come after these kind of institutions and these kind of traditional values that we have. Now, I knew that day when I was singing the national anthem at the armistice, centenary of the armistice, that, you know, eventually that these kind of acts of patriotism, these kind of things that make people feel like they are part of something greater, that makes them value history, that makes them value maybe even Western tradition. These kind of things are, you know, things that there's certain people in politics, there's certain people within our community that would like to see all of this destroyed and gotten away with, gotten rid of. So that is what we're up against. And we are seeing glimpses of it already. If you look at some of the things which are happening in our schools, for instance, just the other day you had an incident where boys or men and people who are Christians or whatever it was told to stand up and admit that they're oppressors in front of their classroom.
Best that they can be.
But on Wednesday, Year 11 male students felt anything but supported. During a talk about privilege and pronouns given by a female council worker, male students were asked to stand up if they were white, male or Christian, and were told they were responsible for being privileged and oppressors.
This is the path that we are heading down, and I think the fact that they were able to put a fence around the shrine so easily, such a big fence as well, like as Donald Trump would say, a big beautiful wall around the shrine. No problem when the woke leftists start building fences around things. That's all totally normal. But yeah, they were able to put a fence around the shrine. They were able to limit that to 1,400 people, whatever it was. They were able to fence off veterans and have them behind the fence and looking into it, even though everyone knew that this was possibly going to happen and the imagery was so bad they didn't care. They had 80,000 people squashed into to the MCG to watch some entertainment, to watch a football match. You had leaders of the opposition party, tweeting about this and saying how outrageous it is, but no one actually did anything. So people just saying like, "Oh, it's really bad, it's outrageous." Same way I'm saying, I admit it, I'm saying these things, but I didn't do anything about it. But these people in power that could actually go there and make a stand and stand with this veteran or whatever, they don't do these things. They just say stuff online. So this is the kind of society that we live in now, and people like Daniel Andrews, who virtue signals about almost every single thing under the sun, didn't even put out a tweet about Anzac Day. Now think about it. I'm pretty sure this guy wishes, everyone a happy Chinese New Year and all this kind of stuff, but he couldn't even put out a tweet to commemorate Anzac Day. It just really goes to show you the depth of the people who are in power at the moment in Victoria. Just the overall woke agenda that is going to be destabilizing or going to be trying to destabilize our traditional historical values that we value so much. It just goes to show you how pervasive they are and how much influence they have over all of society. I think I was ranting just last few moments. I think I was just ranting. If I made no sense, I'm so sorry, but yeah, I was just really pissed off about seeing these images, and it's just really distressing. It's just really disturbing, and I think we should all just remember what happened this year on Anzac Day. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone, and I have just an update on the real Rukshan. I've been a bit quiet recently because the real Rukshan has to go back into the real world. And as many of you know, I do work in the wedding industry, so it's been pretty busy over the last few months, and I'm really trying to balance my time and find some time to make these kind of videos to share with you as well, and make some memes and all this kind of stuff as well. So hopefully you'll see a bit more of me going forward. And again, huge respect to all our brave military men and women, and much respect to the past veterans who have given up so much for our country, so people like me and others and all of you can enjoy the freedom to live in Australia and live our life the way that we want to. Thanks for watching, everyone.